Hey guys, welcome back to the JPM Performance channel. It is once again time for a shop tour. Here we are in the first week of February. February 2nd, Groundhog Day. Also my favorite and only daughter's birthday. So happy birthday to Kendall if you're watching. So I got an email from Eric Zanner who wanted me to talk about corner weights and ride heights. So in his situation, he's running a limited prep bug-eyed Sprite and H production. I'm going to kind of correlate this quick answer to any rear-wheel drive car versus front-wheel drive. First of all, every car is a little different, which means every roll center can be different, every suspension geometry can be different, so there's no one setup for every single rear-wheel drive car. However, obviously in a race car you do want to run as low as you can, to an exception. For example, in a Miata, if you were to run too low, the roll center actually ends up going below the ground in the front, and that can be a real issue with dealing with a push coming out of a corner. So we run Miatas at the pinch welds at about 4 inches in the front and a little bit more in the back. So I'm going to do a quick little synopsis of what I would do like on a Miata. If I had a brand new Miata and it hadn't been on the track yet and I was going to do a setup, I would start with an exact 4 inches in the front and a 4 1/4 inches in the rear. Why do we have it higher in the rear? The reason being is in a car that has an engine up front, it's inherently going to be heavier in the front. So if you've ever seen a dragster, you ever notice how the back end of them is up high? The reason is when you raise the back of a car, and believe it or not, this is the truth, when you raise the back of a car, you actually put weight on the back of the car. If you've ever had a car on the scales, it's absolutely the truth. So when you start doing corner weights, and I'm going to dumb this down for you a little bit, and by the way guys, there is a whole video on aligning a Miata, so if you haven't seen that, get a good look at that. But if I was working on a Miata, generally you're going to see with driver weight about 600 pounds, let's call it 620, 615. A Miata is always light in the right rear, so you might be down as low as like 495 and then 520. Now, if you were to add these up, we always talk about cross weights. If you don't know what cross weight is, it would be the left rear and the right front added together, and the right rear and the left front added together. So if we did that in this situation, you can see we're 25 pounds heavy here, and we're only 5 pounds light here, so we're actually going to have less cross. So this is going to be about a 49.5% cross. Most tracks that we run at, except for, you know, Hallett and Heartland Park, most of them are predominantly right-hand corner tracks. That means you actually want a little more cross into it, so you would want to get it up to more like 51%. So how would you do that? Well, very simply, I'm a big fan of keeping my front ride height as even as I can, and adjusting the rear a little bit. So in a Miata, we generally don't run rear sway bars. So what I would do is I would simply raise this ride height right here. Now, here's the thing about cross, guys. If I raise this left rear ride height, this is going to go up. Absolutely. Let's say it goes up to 535, 15 pounds. You know what else is going to go up? Right here. This 615 is going to go up. This is the way cross works. This is probably going to go up to 625. So all of a sudden we have more cross here versus here. And you probably would only need to take this up maybe 1/8 of an inch. So that's a really rough way of looking at things. For ride heights and corner weights, every car is going to be a little bit different. But Eric, I hope that answered your question a little bit. I can ramble on when it comes to some of this at times, but that's the way I am. Thanks, Scott. Okay, shop tour time. Here we are. I'm actually just finishing this up. So this is the Manus 99 Spec Miata engine. I know I've talked about these a lot. I don't do a lot of Spec Miata engines, but DJ and his son are personal friends of mine. They're from here in Topeka. So I'm just about done with this so they can get this into their car. They're actually building a brand new Spec Miata. I don't know if they're going to run with SCCA this year. These guys have mainly been running with NASA. I did tell them if they really wanted to run with the big boys in Spec Miata, though, they're probably going to have to end up running SCCA eventually. So just doing valve lash here, guys. You can see I've got a multitude of shims for doing valve lash. It's the way that these work is these are shim on top of bucket. And so the shims are up here. So I actually have a little tool that I can use for popping these out without having to pull the cam every time. If you've been watching these shop tours, you know that when I'm doing the shim under bucket stuff, you have to set them up, take all your measurements, yank the cams out, adjust your pucks, put it all back together and try it again. So this does go a little bit quicker, which is nice. So, okay, moving on. Doug Weaver's car is completely done. So looking good. I just need to give it a little bit of a cleanup. We've been on the scales. We've been on the dyno with the new engine, running beautifully. Couldn't be happier with the way it's performed. He will be here next week in time to make it down to Circuit of the Americas in Austin, which is just a little over a week away. So in the meantime, I finally got some time to work on Bob Shader's new 370 car. You can see I've got the brakes off. I'm glad I took all this apart because, as you can see, these front pads that were on this car are down to nothing. So I've got some new Carbotech pads coming. One of the things that I noticed about running these cars in T3 now, you're allowed to do a two-piece rotor setup. So if you've ever lifted one of these front rotors on a 370Z, when the new ones come, I'm actually going to get a really good measurement, but these things are ridiculously heavy. And there is a company that advertises a two-piece front rotor that removes 10 pounds per rotor. 20 pounds in the front and 10 pounds in the back total. 30 pounds of rotor weight. Why is that good? It's not only unsprung weight, but it's rotational mass right at your wheel. So imagine taking 10 pounds off of your wheel. So that's what we're going to do with that. Not only that, these cars actually got 100 pounds off for this season, and I wasn't so sure where I was going to get some of that weight. So we'll do a rotor weight comparison when those come in. It should be kind of an interesting thing. Started sorting through some of the spares. We're going to work on making sure. These cars also ended up getting 10-inch wide rims now. So I did a bunch of measuring on wheels, got some wheels ordered and some wheel spacers, so we should be able to kind of get things rolling, but the car's actually looking really good. So over here, another batch of differentials, which I know you guys have seen a million times. BMW-wise, we're definitely going to need a new wrap, guys, because look at this. No matter how much heat I used, I pretty much stripped the paint off the bottom of this rocker. So why did that happen? In my personal opinion, it probably didn't get prepped and primed quite as good as it could have when it got painted, but we're going to be rewrapping the car anyway, so we're going to let it slide. Now, the most exciting thing of the week. Check out the graphics on the Camaro. John did an amazing job with these. Steve came up with the ideas, and John obviously brought it to fruition just like he always does. I love the number plates. I love the checkered flag on the one side, and then the U.S. flag on the other side. I think this really makes the car pop, and just really changed the overall look of the car. So the car is 100% ready to go. I just need to give it a good cleanup, and also got the one engine ready to go back to PME. This is the motor that was damaged that we had talked about that came out of the car. And then we have our number 3 engine which is prepped and ready to go as a spare. So he's actually going to take a spare to the track in case we need it. There's a few things you have to change over with the alternator and the side mounts in the back, but all in all, this will be the spare he can take with him in the trailer. And but I just love the way that this car looks. Got all the little details figured out, a few upgrades. Obviously, we talked about some of the snafu issues that we had with the electrical system last week, but everything's looking good. We're going to get it loaded up. Also heading down to Circuit of the Americas next week. So looking pretty good, guys. Obviously, rocking and rolling in the shop, keeping busy, never ends around here, right? But I appreciate all the questions in the comments, and appreciate you guys watching these videos, of course. I'm sure we're going to have a shop tour next week. I'm sure we'll have lots of good things to talk about too. So kind of taking a deep breath, getting these cars out for the racetrack next week, and then we'll have a new batch of stuff that's always coming in. So appreciate you guys watching. As always, hit me up with the comments down below. I appreciate you guys watching these videos and all the questions and comments that I get over the different weeks. So keep it coming. Hope you guys have a great week. Take care.